So we're gonna get right into our top 30 draft. This is basically like a big board, but this is us drafting each slot. But we're kind of making it into a mock, if you will, where we're gonna each have our team of 10 players. There's basically a 3-team league. Look at it that way. Scoring wise, we are gonna roll with the scoring system that we've been talking about in our league, the plus the ×2 for steals and blocks each. So keep that in mind. We might have some guys that would go higher in our league that probably would go a little lower in yours. With that, do any of y'all want to go first?
Tony, have at it.
Good question. Okay, so here, gonna really look at the guard spot. So we're thinking about centers and we're thinking about guards. And if you're a center, it's a lot easier to score points. You're just gonna get more rebounds, gonna get more blocks, higher field goal percentage, less usage, etc. With that in mind, do you want to try to get a guard? I think that's the move. And I'll go with a relatively durable guard in Luka to start.
Real quick, I'm assuming we're doing just kind of your standard five, like one player for each position, starting five, maybe a utility, guard. And then what, four bench spots?
And one guard and one for like big man.
Oh, you want to do a guard forward spot?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Yeah, 5 starters, 1 guard slot, 1 forward center slot, 1 util slot.
Yeah.
So that's 8 starters, 2 bench.
2 bench.
Good with that?
But yeah. And then max 4 centers. Max 4 primary slotted centers. Yeah. Is how ESPN does it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Luka kind of spicy first pick. I don't want to. We can get into that, but that's kind of spicy. I don't know if you guys want to like break down the picks right now, but.
Well, my thing is he's a point guard. I know he's not going to score as much as Jokic.
But why not just go with Jokic if you know that Jokic is like the #1 fantasy scorer for like 2 years running?
Well, you could take him.
Okay. Jason could take him.
Anthony's taken. He's taken into account positionality here and going with harder position to fill, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Am I up next, Max, or do you want the honors?
Hey, I'll take the honors if you're.
Go ahead. Okay, so it's a snake draft, so I'll take 3rd and 4th then.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Jokic. The thing is, so I understand the positionality thing, and they're especially in a top 30 draft situation like us, the centers, the gap between the first center draft and the last center drafted in our draft is gonna not be that high compared to a guard position. But frankly, I just think Jokic is like that guy. I obviously think Luka is also that guy. Don't get me wrong. But last season, there was a 3 to 4 point fantasy point per game gap. And I think at that point, I'm just going to go with the guy that I think is the best player. And that's Jokic. So I'm going to go with him. Also super, super consistent. They keep losing players, so he keeps having to do more. It's like the opposite of Luka, where Luka needs more and more help because their team is terrible. Denver's getting nerfed by their own front office, and they're just like, Jokic, help us out. So that's what I'm going to go with. I think he'll be the #1 player in fantasy this year too. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean those are the top 2 guys on my board. I probably would have had it Jokic then Luka, but either way, those are I think the top 2 guys as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
But I'm going to go with pretty easy decision here for me on the 3-4 turn, SGA and then Wemby. Loving that start. Cover 2 different positions. So SGA's shooting guard, point guard on ESPN. So I'll probably slot him in. Well, we'll see where I slot him in. But yep, SGA and Wemby are my first 2.
Okay.
I think honestly, these are my top 4 probably. Pretty aggressively. I think there's a guy I think there's a few guys who are sniffing this territory, but this is the top 4 that I had. And I think there's one guy in the argument, but if we're factoring in health, I think that this is clearly the top 4 in my opinion. So
I think that's fair.
Right now I'm picking between 2 guys. I think one guy is a little bit more evident than the other, but the other guy is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's what I'm going to take. He's power forward primary, so that's why I'm going to take him over. I won't say it yet, just in case, but I assume Anthony will take this guy I'm thinking of. But yeah, Giannis power forward primary scored like 45 a game last year in fantasy. I think, or yeah, something like that. He was more than that. He was 50 a game in fantasy. Top 4 scorer in fantasy. I think he'll probably do the same, if not better, especially this year where more pressure is on him, more pressure is on the team. Year 2 of Doc Rivers, I think they'll be just as bad, and he'll have just as much pressure on his shoulders. So hopefully he stays healthy. And yeah, pretty happy with that.
No, I think that's fair. All right. Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. He's probably he tends to be healthy during the regular season.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are being slept on, so I feel like my turnaround picks, I feel like small forward tends to fall off in versatility here a lot. So got to be safe with Tatum. Healthy, durable. Probably, if all the points that Max brought up about Tatum earlier happen, that'll be great. And then I guess if we're gonna risk it for the biscuit, I got to go with the value, and that's Embiid, who was crazy value last year before he got hurt. Risky move, don't love it, but he's the center, so.
I kind of like him. Yeah, I was picking between Embiid and Giannis. I feel like their upside is just miles ahead of some of these other guys. Some of them, but
I mean,
Tatum is
he was a top 3 guy for most of the year, right? I mean, he was just absolutely producing.
Yeah. Tatum a little aggressive though.
A little aggressive again. I'm going with the positionality of it right now because I'd rather make up that difference when it's a big point value than later on.
Yeah. Gotta get your
oh yeah, I forgot I'm next. My bad.
Yeah, you got that every other.
Yeah. Actually, I'm playing it safe again. Or actually, oh, this is tough. We're doing max 4 centers. I'm picking another center. I think there's a gap at center after this. And I'm picking Anthony Davis.
Damn.
Yeah, so
that was my next pick, OJ.
I'm hype about that. Yeah, I think he's pretty clearly the best player on the board. I think there's another guy who also plays in California who's on the board who is close to him in value, but Anthony Davis has been so consistent. Another year, same situation as Giannis pick with the Bucks. Team's getting worse. Same with Jokic too. I also have teams getting worse, more pressures on them, and they've been relatively healthy. Anthony Davis specifically last year, very healthy. So gonna roll the dice on that. So pretty happy with that. Jokic, Giannis, AD.
Not a bad start. I'm gonna go with. I was gonna take AD. I thought he would still be there, but I'm gonna take the other guy that you were referencing, Max, Sabonis.
Yeah.
I do prefer AD slightly just because he produces more in the blocks category, which, as we were discussing earlier, is very valuable in our league. But, Sabonis is a double machine. He gets assists. He's incredibly efficient. So I'm not too disappointed with that. And my next pick, in between 2 guys here, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Tyrese Haliburton as my point guard. I just think he just, what did he lead the league in assists last year? He is an absolute fantasy beast. He should still have as much opportunity to run the show over there in Indiana. And he's still young. I still think there might be another level there with some efficiency. So I'm happy with Tyrese as my point guard.
Yeah, I think Tyrese was pretty clearly the best non-center on the board. Yeah, and also on the Sabonis point, yeah, I think Sabonis and AD are pretty similar. I don't really have any worries about DeRozan being there cutting into Sabonis's production. I have worries about DeRozan cutting into maybe Fox's production and guys like that, but
right.
Sabonis just plays a different game, and his His passing style is just they run the offense through him. That's never going to change, DeRozan or not. Yeah, sorry, I forgot it's also my pick again. Um, Dude, I'm front running so hard. This is such a mainstream draft for me, but I think the best player on the board is LeBron James. So I'm gonna pick him. Also relatively healthy over the last few years. I am a little bit more nervous about him this year than others, and I was looking at a few other guys instead of him, but I think the gap, yeah, I just think he's too good. I think LeBron's too good still. I think you're pretty guaranteed a top 15 fantasy point per game season out of LeBron every year that he shows up. It's just a matter of how many games he plays. I think with Bronny here too, he's probably going to have an incentive to play more in what might be his final season. Probably not, but we'll see. And yeah, so I'm gonna pick LeBron. I fills a small forward slot and power forward slot, which is yeah, I would have liked a point guard, but so be it.
Yeah, that's I think that's fair enough. I guess. Damn, those are good picks. All right, I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm actually gonna go with Scotty Barnes here.
Ah,
So
that's a good pick.
he fills up the small forwards, shooting guard and power forward, and he's gonna be just the focal point for that for that franchise this year. So absolute just growth year, nothing but it. He takes a huge step. And then for this one, I love that Haliburton pick where you get the double position, and that's something I value for sure. So I'll go with a safe pick, which I think, Jason, you love this guy, has been Devin Booker.
You love D-Book.
Mm-hmm.
I actually traded D-Book in that league. I traded him for that was the Lauri Markkanen deal, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of regret it because D-Book's on an insane contract in that league as well. I think he's 30 to keep this year.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
I think that's a super good pick, to be honest. Also, you're pretty stacked up with like three of the top five guards available.
Yeah.
And also Barnes is a tough one. I wanted Barnes, so. But here I'm gonna pick who I still actually I'm kind of drafting best player available in my eyes right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick John Morant. I think he's the best player on the board left. He fills a skill position of need for me. He also, sorry, I'm writing notes as I'm talking. Last year, where he was already a top 15, 10 to top 10, top 15 fantasy point per game scorer. This was like a down year for him actually in the 10 games he played. We're, just looking at the per game rate. In this down year, this is a point less than he normally scores, 1 to 2 points less than he normally scores over the 2 years before that. I'm kind of curious with the resurgence of their team if he also takes a step. This is his year 25 season, so I'm pretty confident in that. And I think he's gonna get a lot of run. I mean, he didn't play that much last year, so yeah, I think I could see him playing 60 plus games, which is always a worry with Ja, and I think he will do it. So yeah, that's who I'm gonna pick.
All right, I'm gonna go with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Got my small forward spot. I'm interestingly enough, I personally thought Ant disappointed a little bit for fantasy purposes last year. I thought expectations have gotten so high with him, and he had a good year. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't that. All right, now he's a top 15 fantasy guy yet. But I would not be surprised if he gets there this year. I think he showed a ton of growth at the end of last season. He had the whole like Olympic run. I think will be good for his development. He produces across the board. He started getting defensive stats last year, which really helps his overall value. I think he'll continue to be the focal point of that offense. So pretty stoked with him as my starting three there. And then now that I have all the positions covered, I'm going to take my first bench spot, or I guess this is a utility spot, and go with. It's tough, but I'm going to go with Trae Young. I love Trae Young for fantasy. He is a double machine. He's going to score a lot of points. DeJounte Murray is now gone, so he doesn't have to worry about sharing lead guard duties with DeJounte anymore. He's gonna be another just solid producer. Our league in particular doesn't give extra points for threes, I don't think. But if you're in a league that gives extra points for threes, he hits a lot of threes, so that helps his value as well. Yeah, I'm always looking to get Trae Young wherever I can.
Good pick. I think Trey was my best player on the board available too. Ant's a little bit of a reach though. I kind of respect that, to be honest.
Yeah, I need a small forward. I didn't want to wait another round to do that, so I figured I'd get him while I can.
Fair enough. Well,
where are you up? Or am I?
Yeah.
You're up.
I'm up. I'm gonna go again, dude. This is heinous. Another front running draft pick. I'm gonna pick Kevin Durant, who is gonna slot in at my either power forward slot or forward/center slot or util slot. Yeah, I mean, I'm a notorious Kevin Durant non-believer. And I think Booker is better than him. But I actually think for fantasy purposes, if we're not taking position into account, KD's been pretty consistently better than Booker fantasy wise. Not by much, but it is what it is. And also if you consider the position, Booker should go higher than him in a draft, obviously. But points per game wise, again, I'm getting top 15 guy at this point in the draft. Pretty happy with that. Position wise, not ideal, but I'll take the hit on my point guards later. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in between Ant and KD, and KD might have been a better pick, but I wanted that upside of Ant.
Yeah, that's the thing. KD, and I in general always want to pick guys who have because KD's not going to get better than what he is now. The only trajectory is the same or down. And Ant's actually got an upward trajectory where even though last year he's like a top 25, top 30 scorer in fantasy, if he gets any better, he's around KD territory and is more durable. So yeah.
Exactly.
Good picks. Okay. I feel like I gotta get my guy here because he's gonna get got soon. But I absolutely love Sengun, so I'm gonna take him now in the off chance somebody else wants to nab him before my turn. But love this guy. He's unbelievable. I have him in a different league. I'm very happy about that. And I think he could easily average 23, 10 or 11 and 6 assists next year, no problem. So, and if he can get his free throw percentage up, it's just going to be a whole new level. So I like him a lot. Now trying to two centers, that kind of fills that need. I guess I'm gonna kind of take the max route and just go for who I think is conventionally the best available, and that is Donovan Mitchell, who is going to be the focal point of the Cavaliers' offense and covers two positions again, so the versatility is there. And yeah, that's why I got my two guys.
I think Sengun was a really good pick, honestly. Another guy who can only get better, and he's already a top 20 guy.
Right.
I'm pretty hyped you picked D Mitch though, because I am actually all in on this next player I'm about to pick, just for season long purposes. But James Harden, it's gonna be such a gross brand of basketball, but he plays point guard and shooting guard. And if last year he scored 35 fantasy points a game with no Paul George and
no
Kawhi,
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, no Russell Westbrook, Kawhi playing even less. I think Harden's got a chance to sniff a top 5 fantasy season this year, which I don't think you can say about most of the guys that we're drafting at this point. So I'm pretty hyped about that. Also relatively durable historically, so hopefully he keeps that up. He is moving into a different age of his career, literally. So we'll see about that.
All right. I waited on this guy, but I can't wait any longer. I'm gonna go with the boy Jalen Brunson,
There
one
he
of my
is.
favorite players. Not rocking his jersey, but I am a Knicks fan, so I'm gonna have to go with Brunson. I mean, he was, as everyone knows, MVP caliber player last year. He's got arguably even better of a supporting cast this year. I don't think his usage will go down that much. I mean, you definitely have some guys coming in that can score the ball, but he's the unquestioned guy there, and just expect him to have another great year in real life and in fantasy. And then my second pick might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to go with Bam as my. He'll probably fill my utility spot, actually. I love Bam for fantasy. He just gives you that across the board production, high efficiency, blocks and steals that are really valuable in this league. So yeah, I'll go with Bam.
Good picks.
Good pick. Um, yeah, I'm actually pretty high on Bam actually this year. I think he was the best big man left on the board.
Yeah.
Um, damn. I'm kind of in a weird slot now. I feel like there's a relative gap that's going on right now. I think I could pick few guys that would slot in on my bench, but outside of that. I'm gonna take a risk here. This guy's been like pretty not healthy over the last few years,
Oh,
but I need a guard, and
you're
if
gonna
he's on
take
the
him.
court, if he's on the court, he's gonna be really damn good. He's gonna be better than what he's also been, but he's played 58 games over the last 2 years. LaMelo Ball.
Great
Um,
pick.
I
Great pick.
think
Yeah. Good
if
picks.
he's also got a shot to get better. I mean, statistically, he's not even that good. And in fantasy, he's like a top 30 scorer when he's on the court.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, another guy with like top 10 fantasy potential, top 15 fantasy potential.
Yeah.
If he plays 22 games, though, I'm screwed. So
That's a great pick.
That is a great pick. This is where I feel like a big fall off happens.
mhm.
Um, huh. I guess I'm gonna go with the star power idea and ride with kind of rounding out my guard position, Tyrese Maxey.
And
Even though I don't know, I don't really know how much of a theory it is that another great player entering can make your fantasy stats drop that much. Plus his ascension, I think looks really good. So he definitely doesn't have that Brunson keys to the city kind of vibe, but it's adjacent.
yeah,
And we saw what happened in game 5. That was scary. Knicks fans got a little bit worried about that flowing into 3-1 lead just for a second.
he was unbelievable in that series. I mean, he was unbelievable all year, but man,
I mean, also when Embiid was in, I feel like he was, if I remember correctly, he was just as good when Embiid was in and his usage went down because even
Right.
when Embiid's out, he's a volume guy. So like his
Mhm.
volume just goes up, which means more shots missed and more turnovers. So I think it depends on your play style. Like I don't know, when Gobert teamed up with Towns, like that was obviously going to cut into Towns' production. Towns went from being a top 10 fantasy guy to a lot lower than that. But for a guy like Maxey, adding a small forward who is just going to be more efficient, it might just even help his assist stats and help him take less shots.
Mhm.
yeah.
Um,
And the spacing there is going to be a lot better. Going from Tobias Harris to PG.
Oh man. Who's your next
let's
pick?
see.
Did you
One more. So this is my 9th pick. I got to go with another center just to have like 42 with size. Hey, yo. Give me Chet Holmgren.
Ooh.
Like it. I was thinking about him.
So, yeah, going to be a blocks machine. I think 3 blocks is a bit of a reach because he also has iHeart, but I don't think iHeart was he much of a blocks guy compared? I think he's going to play real well next to him. They could stay on the court at the same time. They do not have to split minutes. And I mean, he was very healthy last year, so I don't know if that will stay, but he's not going to get worse. He's going to bulk up. So,
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to watch that team with Hartenstein and Chet there at the 4-5. Because I mean, they play different styles of basketball, but for fantasy purposes, are they going to take rebounds from each other? Who's going to be protecting the rim? Like, I don't think they're going to hurt each other too much, but it'll be just interesting to see how that unfolds. Because Chet was he was their only real rim protector before Hardenstein, so he was just covering that position completely. But Hardenstein is a versatile, so I wouldn't be surprised if they complement each other.
Yeah, I feel like he'll definitely like while they're splitting the court. I mean, objectively, it'll have to take away from the blocks and rebounds numbers during that period of time. But I mean, Chet also only played like 29 minutes a game last year. If Chet played 33 to 34 because he can play power forward, like that might just increase his fantasy production. And he doesn't even need to have an increase in fantasy production to get drafted in this slot right here. Like he's already
100%. Right.
One of the best guys available. So,
and the other great thing about Hardenstein that I loved watching is he's a great passer for a big man. I mean, the dude can really pass. So Chet might get some easy looks off of high-low actions, back doors, things like that, just from Hardenstein kind of facilitating at that high post.
100%. Okay, my pick. This is again a little bit more speculative pick, younger guy, but it's Cade Cunningham. I need another guard again. I need a little bit more coverage there. Just because Braun can play small forward, I'll need to pick a small forward at some point here with my last pick probably, but yeah, I'm gonna pick a guard in the meantime because I think Cade's gonna be really good. And fantasy is already really good when he plays. He just hasn't played a ton, and if anything, the guys that have been brought in to kind of help him out, the younger guys, the ascension of the younger guys, I feel like it's only going to help him and take the load off of him. He's getting doubled 24/7. I think he's really good. At this point already, if I remember correctly, like when he plays, he's a 30 point per game scorer. And this is a little bit more of a risk, right? Like that scoring is under like Ant Edwards, for example, who I said was a risk earlier. So this is definitely a little bit more a little bit of a risk back here too. But I think he could be a 33 fantasy point per game scorer, and if he gets up there, he's a top 25 player. And I think he will. To be honest. So.
Yeah, I mean, with him and LaMelo, you got a couple of guards that can really do it all in terms of pass, rebound, score. And those are really the guys you wanna target in fantasy.
And some upside potential. Like I don't 100%. I don't assume both of them will end up being 35 point per game scorer, but I think one of them will. So if one of them is, so be it.
Oh. All right, I'm gonna go with I need some more depth at the small forward, power forward position. So I'm going to fill that right now with Siakam and then Paolo as my second pick.
Ooh.
We were talking about Paolo earlier. He was a dude last year. He's potentially can take his game to the next level. A little surprised he's actually still available, but not complaining about it because he fits he'll probably be one of my bench pieces, but definitely excited about that. And then Siakam he's just very well-rounded. I think he'll have a great offensive opportunity there running with Tyrese and, the other Nembhard. There's some good playmakers, but he'll still have the opportunities to play make as well, pick up some assists, and he's a great rebounder too. So yeah, Paolo and Siakam, pretty happy with that.
Yeah. I think Paolo, I was picking between Paolo and Cade. I feel like they're both kind of like younger guys you're hoping to take the lead. My only worry with Paolo, even at this point, like last year, I know in the back end he was better, and also we all watched the playoffs. Like it's gonna be a different Paolo coming in this year. I'm just a little nervous. Like he's gotta take a pretty aggressive leap to be a top 30 player. Like he's still gotta definitely like you're still to do that, and That's how I felt about Cade too. So I think they're one in the same breath. But I think Paolo is a really good pick at this point in the draft, specifically. Siakam too. But I think there's also guys in Siakam's breath that are still available too. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
With my last pick, I'm gonna go with a guy that I've been talking all podcast. I'm gonna pick Jimmy Butler last year, 32 fantasy points per game. He's shooting guard, small forward, and power forward, which is super useful for me at this point. I already have three centers in Giannis, AD, and Jokic. Don't need another one. I could get a fourth in theory, like probably would, but want to have more fun and pick Jimmy. Jimmy last year was already like a top 40 player, and that was a down year for him. In our league that has the steals and blocks added, like I don't know if he adds 0.3 steals and 0.4 blocks a game, plus like a little bit more efficiency and a little bit more points. It's not a team that added more scores or something. And this is also Jimmy who is playing for his contract, which we've seen can also mean he turns up. I do like him at this point. I know he's a little bit of older guy, but he's got some more upside potential than I think some of the other older guys or even some of the not older guys left. So that's why I'm going to pick Jimmy here.
Good picks. Good picks. Is this the 30th pick
Yeah.
to round it out? This is also a slightly speculative pick because looking at his actual perceived standing in the league versus how good he is, it's a bit varied. But I need another small forward and power forward, I think. So I'm gonna go with Laurie. Just got his contract. So much like the hunger for performing well in a pre-contract year, you can kind of bloom in a post-contract one. And I think he has the greenest of lights in the beautiful mountains of Utah. So,
Absolutely.
all right, there we go.
Any surprises? I have a few guys I'm surprised we didn't end up drafting.
Yeah, I thought for sure. I mean, your boy Steph still on the board.
I kind of didn't. I was kind of staying away. I don't know.
He's gonna have to be the guy.
I'm a little surprised by that. Was that something that we think he's not going to be producing at that level, or is that something that we kind of filled those positions early and didn't need another guard late?
I mean, I think he's the last. He would be the next guard, like next point guard picked, but like,
yeah.
Has he ever been more than like a 32 fantasy point per game guy, even at his peak? Like he doesn't do enough, like a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Steph. As amazing as he is, he doesn't get you steals, he doesn't get you blocks. His assist numbers aren't unreal. He'll score you a lot of points, but in fantasy, at least I'm always looking for guys that are a little more well-rounded. Not to say that he's a bad fantasy option by any means, but he's not in that elite tier, even when he was at his peak. As you know, some of these other guys that'll get triple doubles consistently.
Like I think Paolo's a way better pick, for example, and he's at a position of need. Like,
yeah. If I needed a guard, I would have taken him, but I just needed some forward depth, so I chose some other guys instead.
But also like Steph, like love Steph. He's also at a point of his career on a team this bad. Like, I don't want to put that energy out there because I'm a Warriors fan. If they're 5-17, he's gonna call it quits on the season. Like, and it's not gonna be up to him. Like the team is gonna be like, you need to fake a hand injury like we did the Wiseman season. But like I think that for guys like him and LeBron, there is that potential where like they might just last 2 months of the season, they might just go rogue and your playoff chances are screwed, you know? So that's my little worried there. Also, like there are guys that are just comparable or left on the board, right? Like I could, Fred VanVleet, I have worries about him compared with the ascension of Amen Thompson and guys like that. But even if Fred VanVleet took like a 5 fantasy point per game production dip, he'd still be a better scorer than Steph Curry last year.
So, wow. That's a good point.
There's also Kyrie, Dame,
De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox, that's another one. That's wow. I kind of forgot about him. But those are all elite point guards. It's just there's a lot of depth at point guard is what I'm realizing here.
And honestly, I think like for example, the way our draft went, like I didn't even need to draft Cade. Like there's guys that we drafted that like because I'll bring up another guy now. Like I'm surprised we didn't pick Gobert. Like I've my issues with him as a regular NBA player. There's just no shot he's scoring less than 33 fantasy points a game or so. Like there's zero realm of possibility that he's not a top 50 fantasy option, and if not better.
He's a cheat code.
Yeah. Is it just especially with our scoring system, obviously, like listeners take that with a grain of salt, right? But yeah, that's what I was surprised about. I think Gobert and Claxton specifically, those are the two kind of centers I was thinking about.
I think that those kind of players are the type of guys that the media and how we perceive them does have an impact on their draftability. So if you can pick one of those guys up and take the emotion out, you're definitely going to benefit.
100%.
I mean, if Gobert is going for $5 more than Steph in your league, like you need to jump all over that. Like
right.
That is like a great deal. I don't know. Any interesting picks? Anyone? Not to talk about the draft too much, but anyone you guys thought was like, ooh?
I mean, I like the LaMelo and Cade picks. I think it's just the injuries are the question marks for both of them.
Yeah, I'm just rolling the dice that one of them pans out. Like, if it's not, it's like one of those that like I'm probably taking the L on one of them. I don't know who. We'll see which one. Like, there's no shot both of them are good for the whole season. But I think if one of them puts it together for the full season, that's a top 10 scorer potentially. So that was just my thought process there. Like in practice, like if we put money on this, like I'm probably picking Gobert instead of that Cade pick. Like I still roll with LaMelo for sure at that point in the draft, but that Cade pick was definitely like I was picking between him, Paolo, and Gobert at that point. But
yeah, I mean to be fair though, you already had two centers, right? You had Jokic and AD.
Yeah.
Unless
and
AD
Giannis
are
too.
forward now.
And well, Giannis had to play power forward and KD. I already have KD, so I already have all my big man slots filled up. But I would pick like Cade as my backup now. I'd rather have Gobert as my backup option than Cade.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you want to read our squads, Max? Just go through who we all got.
Yes. Tony had Luka, Tatum, Embiid, Scotty Barnes, Devin Booker, Alperen Sengun, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Chet Holmgren. Did I miss anyone there?
Laurie
Markkanen, yes, the last pick. Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy, shut up. Jason had SGA, Wemby, Sabonis, Haliburton, and Edwards, Trae Young, Jalen Brunson, Bam Adebayo, Pascal Siakam, Paolo Banchero. And yours truly had Nikola Jokic, Giannis, AD, LeBron, John Morant, KD, Harden, LaMelo Ball, Cade Cunningham, Jimmy Butler.
I gotta say, Max, I think you took this one, man. Your team
Dude, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm pretty hyped about it.
It's loaded. You got a good balance of guys like Jokic and Harden who you just know are just gonna produce, and then you got upside too. I mean, your team is pretty I mean, all of our teams are stacked, but
yeah, obviously.
I'd probably have to hand it to you on this one.
Damn. I'm free gas. Let's go. I feel pretty good about it. I think it ended up working out. Like the Jokic, Giannis, AD top 3 is like I just have 3 as the top 6 scorers in fantasy out the rip.
Yeah.
And at the same time, wouldn't be surprised if either of our other teams also just like any of our teams could easily. It's so hard to tell with fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
Because also like it's like one of those things like especially my team like if AD got hurt for a week and LeBron got hurt that week at the same time, I'm losing. So and that's like not out of the realm of possibility. So like
right,
we have to put these teams in a league like we were saying.
We could actually do that.
That would be kind of crazy.